Hi there guys, Tom Quayle here. Hope everybody's doing very well as ever out there. So today is another really exciting day for me because I can finally announce that the Android version of my debut app, Solo, is finally available on the Google Play Store. It's really exciting. Now, ever since we released Solo back in January, every single piece of content I have done, whether it's on YouTube or Instagram, a video, a photo, anything, basically, you guys have been asking hundreds of comments about when is the Android version coming out. So we hugely appreciate how interested you guys are in this product, and we've worked as hard as we possibly can to get this out as soon as we can, and it works fantastically. So in this video, for any Android users, or of course any iOS users out there who've missed Solo or want to know more about the app, I'm going to tell you a lot more about it, what it is, how it works, and why you should get hold of this app. We consider it to be the ultimate app for practicing and learning the fretboard. So let's talk a little bit more about it right now. So here it is, Solo running on an Android device. I can finally show this to you. And what is Solo? Well, this app is, in our opinion, the ultimate practice tool for learning to visualize the fretboard. And it works by using what we call intervallic functions. Now, intervallic functions, if you want to know more about them, I'm going to leave a link down below in the video for a tutorial that I've got on my YouTube channel about intervallic functions. Safe to say that what we're talking about here is learning or practicing to visualize the fretboard by thinking about how every single note that you play relates back to the root note of the chord or the scale that you're visualizing or playing at the time. So for example, is the note that you're playing the 5th or the 6th or the 9th or the 2nd or the 11th, for example? What is it? How does it function against the root note of the chord that you're playing over? I want to give you a really quick example of this. So Solo is divided into 4 different sections. We have the changes trainer here, which will teach you or allow you to practice to visualize over chord changes. So thinking about, chord tones or thinking about extensions and visualizing them on the fretboard over a series of chord changes. We also have the scale trainer here. The scale trainer is going to allow you to select from a whole bunch of different scales that are really important for improvising in a modern harmonic context, so either pop progressions or blues progressions or jazz progressions, whatever, and practicing those scales in lots of different ways of visualizing them on the fretboard. We then have a whole bunch, in fact 2 hours or so of video tutorials built into the app that David and I shot for you guys, teaching you how to get the most out of the app, how to practice using Solo. And then of course there's the settings screen where you can tailor and customize things to your liking. If I go back to the changes trainer here, it's divided into 2 sections. We've got a level selection here, which allows you to select the particular intervallic functions that you want to work on. So that is simple, is as simple as just selecting from a series of chord tones, for example. So single chord tones like root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th, 2 chord tones, 3 chord tones, 4 chord tones, different inversions, some different melodic structures, like some Coltrane style exercises, voice-led structures, all sorts of things, all the way up to complex things like chord scales starting from different chord tones, passing note scales, bebop style scales. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the root, 3rd, 5th, and 7th level. Okay, and this is going to ask me to play over a set of chord changes that I'm going to select in a second. Solo's going to map out all of those intervallic functions, the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th, onto the chord changes and ask me to find them on the guitar. So let's tap on the chord changes here and let's select from one of these tunes. There's a whole bunch of different tunes in here, and then there's a whole bunch of exercises we've put together for you guys as well. So there's loads and loads of these in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select Autumn Leaves, classic jazz standard, and I'm going to hit Start Changes Workout. Now there are a bunch of other options down here to enable you to tailor the workout to your specific requirements. So you can reverse, for instance, or randomize the intervallic functions, the order of them. You can turn on some voice leading, or you can repeat the exercise or change the key, for example, of this particular tune, transpose it to a new key. We're just going to stick with the default options and hit Start Changes Workout. Now what Solo has done here is it's presented me with the first chord of the tune, C minor 7, and then it's mapped intelligently those intervallic functions, the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th, for this particular chord type. It's a minor 7 chord, so we've got a root, flat 3, 5, and flat 7. Now what Solo is doing is it's waiting for me. It's listening to my guitar, either through the onboard microphone or in my case through an audio interface. I'm plugged directly into this Google Pixel 4a, and it's waiting for me to play these intervallic functions. So it wants the root note, or 1, of C minor 7. Now if I was to play something other than C, you can see it's not doing anything because it knows that those notes are not C. If I play a C, I can play any C on the fretboard I like. I'm going to play this one at the 3rd fret of the A string. Check that out. So Solo has recognised that I played the root note C and it's turned grey. That tells me I've done it. It's like gamifying this kind of process of visualising the fretboard. I found the root note. It now wants me to find the flat 3 or the minor 3rd. So my job is to find where that minor 3rd is. But Solo is just going to wait for me to find it. There's no metronome clicking in the background. There's no backing track. I can take all the time in the world to find this flat 3. And Solo will confirm to me whether I've got it right or not. So I know that the flat 3 is here in relation to the root note. Now if you didn't know that, we have all of these intervallic function shapes written out as a PDF file in the tutorial section. Now when I play it, again look, Solo has recognised that I've played that minor or flattened 3rd, and it knows that I got it correct. It now wants the 5th. So I can ascend or descend to that 5th if I play it here. It knows I've played the 5. Now it wants the flat or minor 7. Now if I played a natural 7 by mistake, or if I played the wrong note, you can see that Solo is not moving on until I get this intervallic function correct. So here is the flat 7, or I could play it down here. Now it's moved on to the next chord. So the second chord of Autumn Leaves is F7, and it wants the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7. And again, it's intelligently mapped out 1, 3, 5, flat 7, which is correct for a dominant 7th chord. So now I want 1, 3, 5, flat 7. Now B flat major 7, okay? Now it wants the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7 again. So I could play 1, 3, 5. Let's say I got the 7 wrong, flat 7. It knows that's not the flat, well, it knows that's the flat 7 and it's not the natural 7. Here's the natural 7. Here's the 1, 3, 5, 7 of E flat major 7. So on and so forth. I'm going through these now quite quickly. So you can really work through visualizing all of these different intervallic functions. Literally, what am I playing here? I'm playing the 1, the 3, the 5, and the 7. Really visualizing these on the fretboard. And of course, as you visualize them, you'll get better at hearing them as well. And you can ascend or descend, it's entirely up to you. In the tutorials section, we have a bunch of video tutorials, all based around limitation exercises that will help you to get the most out of the app in terms of playing in specific areas of the neck, playing on specific strings, visualizing these intervallic functions in different ways. And as I say, those are all very high quality video tutorials that you can use. Now I could make this more complex or simpler for myself. Let's say you're a beginner, you've never done this before, you can't think about anything other than the root note. Let's start with just root notes. Let's take that same progression or pick any of the other progressions or exercises. Start the changes workout. Now it's only asking for root notes. So I just have to find the named note on the chords. So C, F, B flat, E flat. Let's say I get this wrong and played D by mistake. Solo knows it's waiting for E flat, A, D, G, so on and so forth. So you could be very, very simple. You could then just select the 3rd, for example, and play the relevant 3rd. So here's the flat 3, here's the 3rd, and then the 3rd, so on and so forth. You know, just work through in that way. Or you could get more complex and come into the changes trainer and select one of these melodic structures, or let's say the chord scale, and play through the chord scale for every single chord in the tune. And you can see Solo is pretty quick at recognizing what you're playing. It will keep up with you. If you play a little bit slower, it takes you a bit longer. Let's say on this particular chord I played the wrong 6. It knows it's going to wait for me to play the 6, and then the flat 7, and then the 1. So it's really getting you to think about how every single note that you visualize relates back to the chord or scale that you're playing at that particular time. And this is a really, really powerful way of thinking about the fretboard. Now, for any of you guys who've bought my Visualizing the Fretboard tutorial, where I talk about this 2-point system that I use for visualizing every single interval, again, this is what's written out in this PDF file here. Solo is not designed to teach you this method. You can use any method to visualize the fretboard, the cage system, 3-note per string for solo. But if you have bought my Visualizing the Fretboard tutorial, or if you've bought Beebee's Pathways to Jazz tutorial, this is the ultimate app for you guys because it utilizes the same kind of thought process for efficiently finding these notes on the fretboard. If you haven't bought those tutorials, don't worry guys, please feel free to check them out. I'll leave a link in the description below. You can totally still use solo. It's just that you'll be thinking in a slightly different way in terms of the way you're visualizing the fretboard. So if I come to the scale trainer now, we can use exactly the same technology in terms of solo listening to and analyzing in real time what you're playing, but now for scales. So in here we've got a bunch of different scales, as I mentioned, that you would need to play over pretty much any chord progression in existence. So we've got our pentatonic scales, we've got major scale modes, we've got melodic minor scale modes, harmonic minor scale modes, and then we've got harmonic major scale modes, symmetrical scales like diminished and whole tone, the augmented scale, and then a bunch of bebop scales for you jazzers as well. Let's go in and let's select the melodic minor scale, for example. We'll select a starting root note of C. And again, there's a bunch of different options here to customize the workout to your preferences. You can change the direction of the scale. Do you want it to ascend or descend? You can randomize the notes within the scale. Do you want to start on the root or the third or the fifth or the seventh for that particular scale, or randomize the starting note? And then you can change the root note. So every time you play a scale, it will either randomize the next starting root note. It might ask you to play F melodic minor or G melodic minor, for example, or you can be more sequential and go up and down a semitone each time. Let's do random here. I'm going to hit Start Scale Workout, and it's asking me now, because I selected C as my starting root note, to play all the intervallic functions within C melodic minor. Again, if you're not too au fait with intervallic functions, I'll leave a link down in the description below to a video about intervallic functions. But again, essentially it's asking me to visualize how each of these notes, or find them on the fretboard by how they relate back to the root note of a particular chord or scale. So in this case, C melodic minor. So it's asking for the 1 or the root note. Now it's asking for the 2. Now the flat 3. Then the 4. The 5. The 6. The 7, natural 7. And then the 1. Now it's asking for G sharp melodic minor. Now I could play the 1 here, then the 2, then I could come down, let's say, to the flat 3 here, then 4, 5, 6, and then 7, and then 1. Now it's asking for G flat melodic minor. I'm going to use this fingering. Now D sharp melodic minor. Now again, if I get this wrong, let's say I started on D instead of D sharp, it knows that's the wrong note. Let's play D sharp. Let's say I played 2, and then by accident I played a major third instead of a minor or flattened third. It knows that's not the right note. Here's my flat 3, 4. Now maybe I played a flat 5 by mistake. Solo's going to wait till I play the 5. It knows every time how the note I'm playing relates back to the root note of the chord or scale. 7, and then 1. So on and so forth. So this is a really powerful way of practicing scales. Again, if I go back to here and let's say we randomize the actual order of the notes, now we've got C melodic minor 1, 5, flat 3, 2, 6, 4, 7, 1. So even if you're a really advanced player or a beginner and you just want to start learning how to visualize and think about scales by, in a really detailed way, I'm playing the 2, I'm playing the 6, I'm playing the 5, I'm playing the 4, and really get to grips with this. This is such a powerful way of thinking about the fretboard that these large shapes that we learn don't allow us to think about in great detail. And this is exactly how I'm thinking. Every time I improvise, I'm thinking about where, how does every single note that I play relate back to the chord or scale's root note that I'm playing over at the time. So it's a really useful thing to practice. And as I say, one of the other really useful things about this is because it uses the onboard microphone of your device. I'm currently plugged in via an audio interface. There's a cable down here. So you can totally use any class compliant audio interfaces with Solo. I'm currently using an Sonic Xtone Pro interface. You could use a Fractal Audio XFX3 or a Quad Cortex or any of those devices, a Line 6 HX Stomp. But if you use the microphone on the device, you can also sing these intervallic functions. So it's a fantastic ear training tool as well. And we have, again, a bunch of tutorials down the bottom here on ear training with Solo, how to get the most out of singing notes and using your instrument at the same time to help you out. So it's a really unique and powerful ear training tool. And then if we go to the settings here, just the final thing, and I go to the instrument selection, Solo not only works with guitar and bass, different, 7-string, 6-string guitar, 4-string, 5-string bass. It also works with horns, so you can use it with saxophones like B-flat horns and E-flat horns. And even if you're an E-flat tuned guitar player, so you've got your guitar tuned in E-flat, but you like to visualize or think about the guitar as if it was in standard E, you can still use the app as well by selecting concert pitch -1. So there we go, guys. That is Solo on Android devices. Thank you so much to everybody who has so far checked out and bought Solo. It's been incredible to see the response to this app and to see you guys getting a lot out of it and utilizing it in your practice. Of course, click the link in the description below. That will take you to the Android version on the Google Play Store. And of course, you'll find a link to the iOS version. Hit the like and subscribe buttons below, of course. And make sure you subscribe to the Solo YouTube channel as well, because again, I'll leave a link below. We upload weekly tutorials to there as well that will show you even more ways to utilize the app and get the most out of it. All right, guys, my name's Tom Quayle. Thank you again for all your support, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.